Manhattan's housing market has been sky high. The appreciation over the past few years fueled in large part by Wall Street's fortunes, those big bonuses. But can the city weather the collapse of a major banking institution like Bear Stearns, where potentially thousands, if not tens of thousands, could be lost and bonuses dried up? Thoughts now from power broker Dolly Lenz at Prudential Douglas Elliman and the most profitable realtor in the nation, along with Greg Heim, chief economist at Halstead Property, and Michelle Caruso Cabrera, who we're going to get to in a second, right before the St. Patrick's Day parade goes by behind her. We want to be able to hear what she has to say. Dolly, I'll start with you. Actually, you pointed out to us some months back that things might have been softening in some sectors. What about an event like this? Give us your read on how this might affect the Manhattan real estate.
I think a lot of this has been already factored into the market, the fact that Wall Street bonuses were going to dry up somewhat, and obviously not as big a change as Bear Stearns itself, but that's, I think, been shorn up by how the Fed handled everything. So I think we're actually going to be perfectly okay, and if not, possibly better off.
How so would you be better off?
People, I think, are going to look to invest in hard assets such as their home, realizing that in the long term, that really is the place to be.
Greg, do you agree? I mean, could this have a silver lining?
Well, I don't know that I'd exactly call it that just yet. Obviously, you could ask the question of where else would people feel better putting their money when you look at a market like Manhattan that's had so much appreciation when everything else has suffered. But I think this really goes to confidence. You know, since the end of the summer, we've been sort of bombarded with all this bad news that people have been pointing to as reasons not to buy or reasons why prices would start to drop. It started with the credit crisis. We've been kind of dealing with this kind of looming over our head for the last couple of months of several different firms laying off people. So I think it sort of adds to that a little bit. But, you know, it'll take time before we can really see how it all shakes out.
Yeah. Michelle?
Sue, I was going to say, I find it hard to believe that it's factored in. I mean, there were 14,000 employees here who a week ago thought that their jobs were secure. So I got to think that we're already hearing anecdotally from people around here, houses are going to go up for sale if you live anywhere along the railway lines, in Connecticut or in New Jersey, and that other people at other firms must think, oh my goodness, if it can happen there, can it happen here? And maybe I shouldn't buy that new apartment, etc. I got to think there's going to be some kind of impact.
Dolly, the other issue that you kind of alerted us to before was the ability to get a mortgage versus the ability not to get a mortgage. Has that changed at all, given the fact that the credit markets have deteriorated considerably? And are high-end clients still getting mortgages? Because you pointed out the fact that they want, they're putting their money in other places.
High-end clients are definitely still getting mortgages. It is more difficult to get a mortgage. You have to put down a bigger deposit. I'd say that's the largest change. And but I still think that fundamentally everything in the middle markets at least will be fine. And I truly believe, if not better.
Okay. Greg, what would be something that you would watch for that would indicate a serious deterioration in the market? Because New York has held up much better than other parts of the country.
Right. If you look at why we've held up, obviously, the $33 billion in bonuses that were paid and our strong economy has been part of the reason. But it's really all been about inventory. And we're going to look at the supply. And that's, if you look at what separates us from so many of the other markets, is really we're looking at a couple of months worth of homes for sale versus somewhere between 10 and 11 months, which is what the national average has been over the last year or so. So I think that's really what we're going to. You don't have a prolonged downturn in pricing until you have too many apartments or homes for sale.
Okay.
And right now, it's just not the case in Manhattan.
What about inventory, Dolly? Are you worried, as Michelle pointed out, that some of these homes might end up on the market? Or are inventory levels in the price point that you're looking at okay?
Well, what she described specifically, which is along the Long Island Railroad in Connecticut, I think that market's already hurt, and that could be hurt much further. I believe that New York City, Manhattan specifically, will be fine, and again, back to fundamentals of supply and demand, and there really is a smaller supply than the demand.
Okay, and the Hamptons and the high end, you still see strength there?
I still see strength, but that has yet to play out.
Okay, well, that means you're going to have to come back, Dolly.
Great.
Thanks so much. Michelle, we'll let you enjoy part of the parade anyway, and we have a lot more straight ahead.